On my 25th birthday, my mother told the waitress to throw away my cake because my sister had a medical emergency. Then she leaned close enough for only me to hear and said, "Caleb, for once in your life, stop making everything about you." 9 years later, I stood in a title company conference room with that same sister across the table, $1 million sale waiting for signatures, and a retired nurse holding the old hospital bracelet from that night. She looked at it once and whispered, "This woman was never admitted to my emergency room." That was the first time my parents understood something I had learned the hard way. A canceled birthday can become evidence. My name is Caleb Harlan. I am 34 years old now, and I live in Dayton, Ohio, where I work as an emergency management records coordinator for the county. It is not an exciting job to most people. I sit with call logs, incident reports, evacuation maps, hospital coordination records, and after-action files. I make sure the dates match, the times line up, and the story told by paperwork agrees with what actually happened. Most people think records are cold. I don't. Records are the closest thing I know to memory without emotion. They do not flatter anyone. They do not protect the favorite child. They do not care whose voice was louder at the dinner table. They simply sit there and wait. I grew up in a family where waiting was safer than speaking. My father, Robert Harlan, owned a small insurance office in Fairborn. He was the kind of man who wore polished shoes even on Saturdays and believed respect meant silence from his children. My mother, Mary Ann, taught piano lessons from our living room and had a talent for making cruelty sound like concern. And then there was my younger sister, Marissa. Marissa was 3 years younger than me, and somehow always in crisis. If I had a school play, she had a stomach ache. If I had a scholarship interview, she had a panic attack. If I brought home an award, she had a hard week and needed the family's full attention. My parents called her sensitive, I called her practiced. But when you are the son in a house where your sister's tears set the schedule, you learn to fold yourself small. You learn to eat cold dinner. You learn to say, "It's fine," when it is not fine. You learn that your happiness is negotiable, but her discomfort is sacred. My grandfather was the only person who ever noticed. His name was Elias Mercer. He was my mother's father, though you would never have guessed it by the way they treated each other. Grandpa Elias had worked as a railroad signalman for 30 years before opening a little machine shop outside Xenia. He repaired farm equipment, restored old engines, sharpened tools, fixed church boilers, and somehow always smelled like coffee, oil, and peppermint gum. He had big hands, a soft voice, and the slow patience of a man who had spent his life around dangerous machines. When I was 8, he gave me a small red railroad lantern. Not a toy, a real one. Heavy metal, thick glass, a little rust around the handle. "Signals matter, Cal," he told me. "A man who ignores signals gets people hurt." Every birthday after that, he brought me something from his old shop. A wrench, a brass compass, a notebook full of measurements, a pocket level. Little things my parents said were junk. To me, they were proof that somebody in my family saw me clearly. My 25th birthday was supposed to be small. I did not ask for much. Dinner at Bellini's, the Italian place near the river. Just my parents, Marissa, Grandpa Elias, and me. I had been working nights as a 911 dispatcher then. I was tired all the time, drinking gas station coffee and learning how calm voices can save lives. I had not celebrated a birthday properly in years, but Grandpa insisted. 25 is a marker, he said on the phone that morning. A man ought to receive something important at 25. I asked him what he meant. He chuckled. "You'll see tonight. That should have made me happy. Instead, it made me nervous, because in my family, anything important to me had a way of becoming inconvenient to someone else. I arrived at the restaurant 10 minutes early. The waitress had set a round table near the back window. There was a chocolate cake in a white bakery box on the side table, because Grandpa knew chocolate was my favorite. He came in wearing his brown Sunday jacket and carrying a long canvas bag in one hand. My mother noticed the bag first. "Dad," she said, smiling too tightly, "please tell me you didn't bring another garage relic into a restaurant." Grandpa looked at her, then at me. "It belongs to Caleb." Marissa rolled her eyes. "Of course it does." She was 22 then, wearing a cream sweater, perfect makeup, and the bored expression she used whenever the room was not centered on her. My father checked his watch twice before we ordered drinks. For 20 minutes, everything almost felt normal. Then Grandpa reached for the canvas bag. Marissa dropped her fork. It clattered against her plate loudly enough that 2 tables turned. She pressed one hand to her side and inhaled sharply. My mother froze. Marissa? I'm fine, Marissa whispered. She was never fine when an audience was available. What is it? My father asked. My stomach, she said. It's really bad. Grandpa did not move. He just watched her. My mother was already standing. We need to go. I remember looking at the cake box. The candles had not even been put in yet. Maybe we should see if it passes, Grandpa said quietly. Marissa gave him a wounded look. I said it hurts. My mother snapped her purse shut. Caleb, help your sister to the car. I stood there, half out of my chair, confused by how fast my birthday had disappeared. Should I come? I asked. My father shook his head. No, you'll just be in the way. That was when my mother told the waitress to cancel the meal. Then she pointed to the cake. Throw it away, please, she said. We have a medical emergency. The waitress looked at me, unsure. It's his birthday, Grandpa said. My mother turned on him with that public smile still fixed to her face. Dad, this is not the time. Then she came close to me and said the line I carried for 9 years. Caleb, for once in your life, stop making everything about you. No one at that table defended me. Not my father, not my sister. Grandpa tried. He reached for the canvas bag, but my father took it from him. I'll put this in the trunk, Dad said. We can deal with it later. Grandpa's eyes followed that bag like something alive had been taken from him. I should have said no. I should have held out my hand. But I was 25 and still trained to step aside when Marissa performed Pain. They left in a rush, my mother supporting Marissa, my father carrying the bag, Grandpa moving slowly behind them, looking back at me once through the glass door. I paid for the drinks because nobody else did. Then I sat in my truck in the parking lot and watched my phone. At 8:14, my mother texted, she may need emergency surgery. Go home. At 8:22, Marissa posted a blurry photo of a hospital hallway to her private story with the caption, worst night ever. At 8:40, Grandpa called me. I answered immediately. His voice sounded strange, thin, pressed down. Cal, he said, did your father give you the lantern? What lantern? Silence. Then he said, the red one. The red railroad lantern from when I was a kid. I thought it was in the bag. It was, he said. I heard my mother's voice in the background, sharp and muffled. Grandpa lowered his voice. Listen to me. If they tell you I changed my mind, don't believe it. My heart started beating harder. Changed your mind about what? The line went dead. I called back 3 times. No answer. The next morning, my mother told me Marissa had been released, but everyone was exhausted and I needed to give the family space. 2 weeks later, Grandpa Elias had a stroke. 6 days after that, he died. And whatever he had meant to give me on my 25th birthday disappeared with him. At the funeral, my mother cried beautifully. Marissa wore black and leaned on my father like she had lost the most important person in her life, though she had visited Grandpa twice in the last year and complained both times that his house smelled like old oil. After the service, my father pulled me aside near the coat rack. Your grandfather's estate is simple, he said. He left the shop and property to your mother. There isn't anything for you to worry about. I looked at him. Did he leave me anything? My father sighed like I had embarrassed him. Caleb, don't make this about things. That was how my family worked. When they took something from me, wanting an answer made me greedy. I asked about the canvas bag once. My mother said she donated whatever was inside because she was not keeping rusted junk in her garage. I asked about Grandpa's phone call. She told me grief makes people imagine meaning where there is none. Marissa told me I should be grateful I did not spend my birthday in a hospital waiting room. The world doesn't stop because you wanted cake, she said. So I stopped asking. Not because I believed them, because I had no proof. 9 years passed. I moved to Dayton. I left 911 dispatch after 5 years and took the county records job. I bought a small brick house with a sagging porch and fixed it room by room. I dated twice, badly. I learned how quiet a home can be when nobody is demanding that you shrink. I kept one photo of Grandpa on my desk. In the photo, he was standing in front of Mercer machine and tool, sleeves rolled up, one hand resting on the red lantern mounted by the shop door. The shop had been closed since his death. My mother said the building was too old to use. My father said the taxes were a burden. Marissa said the area was ready for development, which was her way of saying she had found somebody willing to pay for land. By the time I was 34, I had accepted that my family had chosen its shape without me in it. Then my parents invited me to their 40th wedding anniversary. I almost did not go. The event was in the fellowship hall of Graceview Church, the same church where Grandpa's funeral reception had been held. My mother said it would mean a lot if I came. My father said people asked about me. Marissa texted 3 heart emojis, which meant she wanted something. I went because part of me was still the boy who believed showing up might someday be enough. The fellowship hall smelled like coffee, lemon cleaner, and buttercream frosting. There were framed photos on every table. My parents cutting their wedding cake, my father opening his first insurance office, Marissa graduating college, Marissa buying her first house, Marissa holding her daughter. There were 2 photos of me. One from high school, one where half my face was blocked by a centerpiece. Marissa arrived 20 minutes late with her 7-year-old daughter, Madison. Everyone called her Maddie. She had dark hair, serious eyes, and a habit of standing slightly behind adults, watching before speaking. I had only met her 4 times. Not because I didn't want to know her, because Marissa used access like a faucet. Warm when she needed praise, shut off when she did not. Maddie walked up to me holding a paper cup of punch. "Are you Uncle Caleb?" she asked. "I am. You fix emergencies?" I smiled a little. "I help people plan for them." She thought about that. "Mommy says emergencies make people stop being mad." The sentence hit me in a place I had not protected. Before I could answer, Marissa appeared behind her. "Maddie," she said quickly, "don't bother your uncle." "She's not bothering me," I said. Marissa smiled at me with glossy lips and cold eyes. "You always were patient with awkward moments." During the slideshow, my mother stood near the projector, narrating our family history like she was giving a museum tour of a perfect life. Then a photo appeared from my 25th birthday. I had never seen it before. It showed the table at Bellini's, the cake box, Grandpa sitting beside me, Marissa in the corner of the frame, looking perfectly fine, one hand lifted as if she was about to laugh. My mother said, "Oh, this was the night poor Marissa had that terrible appendix scare." People made sympathetic sounds. Marissa laughed softly. "That was dramatic." Maddie looked up at her mother. "What's an appendix?" Marissa stiffened. My mother clicked to the next slide too fast. But Maddie kept talking, because children do not know which family lies they are supposed to protect. "I thought, that was the night Grandma took you to sign papers at Mr. Voss's office." The fellowship hall did not go silent, not fully, but the air changed. My father's hand tightened around his coffee cup. Marissa bent down quickly. "Honey, you're mixed up." Maddie frowned. "You said it in the car. You said your tummy thing worked and everybody had to leave." My mother's face went pale beneath her makeup. I looked from Maddie to Marissa, then to my parents. 9 years of old hurt shifted into something sharper, not anger, recognition, a signal. A man who ignores signals gets people hurt. After the slideshow, my mother avoided me. My father pretended to speak with the pastor. Marissa kept Maddie at her side like the child had become a document she needed to guard. I was standing near the coat closet, deciding whether to leave, when Maddie slipped beside me. She held something wrapped in a faded dish towel. "Grandma said this was trash," she whispered, "but it has your name." I unfolded the towel. Inside was the red railroad lantern. My breath left me so hard I nearly dropped it. It was smaller than I remembered and heavier than memory. The glass was still red. The handle was cold. A strip of old masking tape clung to the base. "Caleb, 25. My handwriting was not on it. Grandpa's was. "Where did you get this?" I asked. Maddie looked toward the hall. "In Grandma's attic. Mommy and Grandma were cleaning boxes because the old shop is being sold. Grandma said old things make people ask questions." I knelt so I could look her in the eye. "Maddie, did anyone know you brought this to me?" She shook her head. "Are you going to get in trouble?" She looked down. "Mommy gets mad when I remember wrong." I knew then that this was no longer about a birthday. I put the lantern in my coat, thanked Maddie, and left before anyone noticed. At home, I set the lantern on my kitchen table under the yellow light above the sink. For a long time, I just looked at it. I had imagined that lantern gone forever, donated, rusting in some stranger's garage, buried under the weight of family convenience. But Grandpa had marked it for me, Caleb, 25. There was a small screw in the bottom plate. It was nearly hidden under dust. I fetched a screwdriver from the drawer and turned it slowly. The plate loosened, something slid inside. I turned the lantern over, and 3 things fell onto my table: a brass safe deposit key, a folded letter sealed in a brittle envelope, and a small silver cassette recorder, the kind people used before phones did everything. My hands shook, not badly. Enough, the envelope had my name on it. If this got to you late, then I was right to be worried. That was the first line. I sat down before reading the rest. Grandpa's handwriting was uneven but clear. He wrote that my mother and father had been pressuring him for months to transfer Mercer Machine and Tool into Marissa's name. They said she needed stability. They said I was too independent and would not care about family property. They said the shop was wasted on a man with a county job and no wife. Grandpa did not agree. He had created the Mercer Signal Trust, a small family trust that held the machine shop, the land under it, his savings, and a training fund he wanted used for young people leaving foster care, veterans returning from service, and any grandchildren who needed education money. He had named me successor trustee, not because I was the oldest, because in his words, Caleb listens before he touches anything important. I had to stop reading for a minute. There are sentences that heal and hurt at the same time. Grandpa wrote that on my 25th birthday, he planned to give me the lantern, the trust documents, and the safe deposit key. He wanted me to know where the originals were kept. He wanted me to understand that the shop was not just property. It was a promise. Then came the line that made my stomach turn. If Marissa has an emergency tonight, ask yourself who benefits from you leaving the table. I read that line 3 times. Then I picked up the cassette recorder. The batteries were dead. Of course they were. I drove to a 24-hour grocery store, bought the wrong batteries first, went back, bought the right ones, and sat in my truck under a parking lot light like a man afraid to hear a ghost. When I finally pressed play, Grandpa's voice filled the cab. Weak but unmistakable. Cal, if you are hearing this, I did not get the chance to say it in person. I am sorry. A family can love you and still try to use you. Learn the difference before they make it cost you more than feelings. There was a pause. Paper rustled. I signed the trust on June 3rd. The originals are at Buckeye Valley Bank, Box 117. Your mother has a copy but not the key. Your father knows enough to be dangerous. If they bring a paper saying you refused the trustee role, you did not sign it in front of me. Remember that. The tape clicked softly. Then Grandpa said one more thing. Do not fight them for revenge. Fight them because people like them count on decent men getting tired. I sat in my truck until the store lights blurred. The next morning, I called the only attorney I trusted. Her name was Elena Brooks. She had been an assistant county prosecutor years earlier before opening a private practice in estate and elder fraud cases. I knew her from emergency preparedness meetings. She was direct, careful, and allergic to drama. I told her the story from the beginning, the birthday, the fake emergency, the lantern, the letter, the safe deposit key, the shop sale. She listened without interrupting. Then she said, Caleb, this is not just family conflict. What is it? If what you're telling me is accurate, it may be trust interference, fraud, possibly elder exploitation, and maybe forgery. Hearing those words out loud changed the room around me. For 9 years, my family had treated my pain like immaturity. Elena treated it like evidence. Do not contact them, she said. Do not accuse them. Do not warn them. Bring me the lantern, the letter, the recorder, and anything you have from that birthday night. I have texts from my mother, I said. Old ones. If they're still backed up, find them. I did. At 8:14 p.m., 9 years earlier. She may need emergency surgery. Go home. At 8:39 p.m. Stop calling. Your sister is frightened. At 9:12 p.m. You owe Marissa an apology for making tonight harder. The next thing Elena did was search county records for Mercer Machine and Tool. The property was under contract. Sale price, $1.18 million buyer. A development company planning storage units. Closing date, Friday. It was Monday. 4 days. That was the ticking clock. The seller listed on the preliminary documents was Marissa Harlan, acting manager of Mercer Holdings LLC. I had never heard of Mercer Holdings LLC, Elena had. It had been created 8 years and 11 months earlier, 3 weeks after Grandpa's death dowager. Marissa Harlan, organizer. Voss and Fielding Legal Services. I knew the name Voss from Maddie's sentence, Mr. Voss's office. Elena leaned back in her chair and folded her hands. Now we know why your niece's memory scared them. What do? We slow the closing down. How? With the truth if we can get enough of it fast. By Tuesday afternoon, Elena had filed a notice of potential trust claim with the title company and requested copies of every document supporting Marissa's authority to sell the property. By Wednesday morning, the title officer called. His name was Grant Holloway. He sounded polite, tired, and suddenly very interested. There is a declination in the file, he said. supposedly signed by you 9 years ago, refusing appointment as successor trustee and approving transfer of assets into Mercer Holdings. I never signed that. That may be a problem. It should be. He paused. Mr. Harlan, I'm going to ask you a careful question. Were you in front of a notary named Lionel Voss on the evening of April 12th, 9 years ago? April 12th. My 25th birthday. No, I said. I was at Bellini's restaurant until my family left for my sister's fake emergency. Grant was quiet for a moment, then he said, I think you and your attorney need to come in. Alina requested the notary log. Lionel Voss was retired and living in Indiana, but his old logbooks had been stored by the firm that bought his practice. The entry from April 12th showed 3 signatures between 8:17 and 8:46 p.m. Marian Harlan, Robert Harlan, Marissa Harlan. A 4th line had my printed name, Caleb Harlan, but the signature beside it did not look like mine. It looked like someone had studied my old school forms and missed the way I crossed the T. Under purpose of document, Voss had written, Trust Succession Declination and Family Transfer Acknowledgement. Under identification, he had written, Ohio driver license verified. My license had been in my wallet at Bellini's, unless someone had copied it earlier. Elena looked at the page and said, This is where the lie becomes paperwork. But there was still the hospital emergency. That mattered because my parents had used it to explain why everyone left dinner, why Grandpa never gave me the lantern, and why Marissa could claim she had been too ill to remember signing anything important. Elena subpoenaed hospital admission records for Marissa Harlan on April 12th. From the 3 emergency rooms within driving distance. No ER admission, no outpatient visit, no surgical consult, no ambulance run, no patient bracelet. Then she found something strange. There had been a visitor badge printed at St. Agnes Medical Center at 8:28 p.m. under Marissa Harlan's name. Visitor, not patient. Reason, maternity floor visit. My sister had not been in emergency surgery. She had been visiting someone. We did not know who until Elena found the old parking validation records attached to the visitor log. The validation was signed by a nurse named Patricia Keene. Patricia was retired now. She lived 20 minutes away. Elena contacted her, and Patricia agreed to speak. We met her in a diner with red vinyl booths and weak coffee. She was in her late 60s, with silver hair pinned behind her ears, and the blunt kindness of someone who had spent a lifetime around frightened families. She looked at the copy of the visitor badge and nodded. That's my signature. Do you remember Marissa Harlan? Elena asked. Patricia's mouth tightened. I remember the mother more. My mother? I asked. Patricia looked at me carefully. Marianne Harlan? Yes, she exhaled. She came in that night with a young woman and a man. They said they needed a quiet place because there had been a family situation. I was charge nurse on maternity. They were visiting a patient who had just delivered and was placing a baby privately. I stared at her. A baby? Patricia nodded. The patient changed her mind, decided she wanted to keep the child. Your mother was very upset. I remember because security nearly got called. The story tilted. I thought we were chasing a fake emergency. Instead, we had opened a second door. Who was the patient? Elena asked. Patricia hesitated. Elena slid a subpoena across the table. Patricia read it, then said a name I had not heard in years. Cara Bell. Cara Bell had been Marissa's best friend in college. 3 months after my 25th birthday, Cara disappeared from Marissa's life. My mother said she had moved away. Marissa said Cara became unstable. I remembered Cara at our house once, sitting on the porch with swollen eyes while my mother spoke to her in a low voice. I had been told not to interfere. Patricia continued. The Harlans were there because they had arranged for Marissa to adopt or take custody informally. I don't know the details, but when Cara changed her mind, your mother was angry. Your sister cried. Your father kept asking if anything had been signed yet. My mouth went dry. What happened to the baby? Patricia looked down at her coffee. Cara kept him as far as I knew. Him. I thought of Maddie saying, Mommy gets mad when I remember wrong. This was bigger than the shop. Elena saw my face and said softly, Stay with me, Caleb. Records came next. They always do. Cara Bell had died 4 years earlier in a car accident outside Toledo. She had a son, Noah Bell, 8 years old. His birth date was April 12th, my 25th birthday, the same night my sister faked an emergency. The same night my parents went to a notary. The same night they visited a maternity floor where a frightened young woman refused to give up her baby. Noah was living with his maternal aunt in Toledo. There was no public connection to my family. At first, I did not understand why that mattered. Then Elena found the trust documents from Grandpa's safe deposit box. Buckeye Valley Bank still had Box 117. My key opened it. Inside were the original Mercer Signal Trust, a signed letter from Grandpa to the future trustee, a list of beneficiaries, and a sealed amendment. The trust was not just for me. Grandpa had written it to support any child or grandchild by blood or legal guardianship connected to the Mercer line, including children wrongfully hidden, excluded, or denied by family pressure. It was oddly specific. Then we opened the sealed amendment. Grandpa had named 3 people for educational support: me, Marissa, and the unborn male child of Cara Bell, if paternity is confirmed through my grandson Caleb Harlan or through any Mercer family male relative. I read that line until the words stopped behaving. Elena read it too, then she looked at me. Caleb, did you know Cara Bell well? No, I said. Not like that. Then why would your grandfather write this? I did not know. Not until I listened to the second tape in the box. Grandpa's voice again. Older. Weaker. Cal, there is something ugly going on around that Bell girl. Your mother thinks I don't hear things because I'm old. I hear plenty. Marissa and Marianne were trying to talk Cara into signing over her baby. Not for love. For money. Your sister thought a baby would make her look settled, and your mother thought controlling the child would control an inheritance line. He coughed. I do not know who the father is. I do know Cara came to me scared. She said your mother promised help, then threatened shame. I gave Cara money to get a lawyer. I told her no one should have to trade a child for approval. The tape crackled. If they punish you on your birthday, it is because you were the one person at that table I trusted not to look away. I sat in Elena's office with my hands locked together. For years, I thought my family had canceled my birthday because Marissa wanted attention. That was only the surface. They had used her fake emergency to cover 3 things at once: a visit to pressure a new mother, a notary appointment to forge me out of Grandpa's trust, and the theft of a lantern that held the key to everything. By Thursday, the day before closing, my family knew something was wrong. My mother called first. I did not answer. She left a voicemail. Caleb, I don't know what you think you're doing, but you are about to embarrass this family over old misunderstandings. Your sister has worked very hard for what she has. I saved it. My father called next. You need to sign whatever the title company sends you, he said when I finally answered. This sale is important. To whom? To all of us. I was not aware I was included in all of us, he sighed. Don't start. I didn't start this. His voice hardened. You were always jealous of Marissa. There it was, the family translation for evidence. Jealousy. I said, Dad, where were you at 8:30 p.m. on my 25th birthday? Silence, then at the hospital. No, you weren't. Another silence. Longer this time. You don't understand what your mother was trying to manage. What was she managing, Lee? He lowered his voice. A family crisis, Marissa's appendix. He did not answer. I said, You have one chance to tell the truth before tomorrow. My father breathed into the phone like an old engine failing to turn over. Then he said, Your grandfather should have minded his own business. That was the first honest thing anyone in my family had said in 9 years. Marissa came to my house that evening. She knocked like police. When I opened the door, she stood on my porch wearing a camel coat, gold earrings, and the expression of someone who expected the world to apologize for resisting her. You're really doing this, she said. Doing what? Trying to destroy me because Mom canceled one stupid dinner. I looked at her for a long second. Was your emergency fake? She laughed once, sharp and humorless. You're 34 years old, Caleb. Are you honestly still crying about cake? Answer the question. Her face changed, only a little enough. You have no idea what that night was like. I'm learning. She stepped closer. No, you're digging because you can't stand that Grandpa trusted Mom with things instead of you. He didn't. She blinked. I said, The originals were in the bank box. For the first time in my life, I saw Marissa without a performance ready. Fear made her look younger, then she recovered. You won't win, she said. You never do. You disappear, Caleb. That's your talent. You leave rooms and then act wounded when people live without you. I felt that one, because good manipulators use a knife made from a little truth. I had left. I had built a life away from them. But leaving a burning house is not abandonment. It is survival, I said. Did you know the signature was forged? She looked past me into my quiet house. Mom said it was Grandpa wanted. That is not what I asked. Her mouth tightened, then she said, you were never supposed to have that shop. Not Grandpa never meant it. Not the documents are wrong. Just that. You were never supposed to have that shop, I nodded. Thank you. For what? For saying the clean part out loud. She left angry. At 6:12 the next morning, Elena called me. Marissa's attorney filed an emergency motion to force closing. They're claiming your notice is malicious interference and that you are emotionally unstable due to long-term resentment. I almost laughed, not because it was funny, because it was predictable. What happens now? Hearing at 10. Probate court. Be there by 9:30. Bring the lantern. The courthouse in Greene County had high ceilings, polished floors, and the kind of quiet that makes shoes sound guilty. My parents were already there when I arrived. My mother wore navy blue and pearls. My father wore a gray suit. Marissa sat beside her attorney, scrolling her phone with trembling thumbs. Maddie was not there, which relieved me, but someone else was. A boy with dark hair sat on a bench beside a woman I did not know. He was 8 or 9, thin, serious, holding a blue backpack in his lap. Elena touched my arm. That's Noah Bell. My chest tightened. Why is he here? His aunt received notice because the trust amendment may include him. She decided to appear. The boy looked up at me. There are moments when blood does not announce itself, but history does. I did not know that child, but I knew he was part of the truth my family had tried to control before he even took his first breath. The hearing began in a small probate courtroom with wood paneling and a judge named Honora Sykes, who looked like she had no patience for family theater. Marissa's attorney spoke first. He said the property sale was legitimate. He said I had appeared after 9 years with sentimental objects and unsupported accusations. He said my delay proved I had no real interest until money appeared. Then Elena stood. She did not raise her voice. She never did. Your Honor, my client's delay was caused by concealment. We are prepared to show that the trustee declination attributed to him was executed on the night of his 25th birthday while he was at a restaurant, after his family staged a false medical emergency to remove him from contact with the settler, Elias Mercer. The judge looked over her glasses. Staged, Elena placed the hospital records on the table. No emergency room admission exists for Marissa Harlan that night. No ambulance run, no surgical consult. The only hospital record is a visitor badge for the maternity floor, issued within minutes of the notary appointment. Marissa's attorney objected. The judge overruled him. Elena continued. She presented the notary log, the forged signature, my old text messages, the original trust, the safe deposit key, the lantern. When she set the red lantern on the evidence table, my mother looked away. That hurt more than I expected, because some foolish part of me still wanted her to say she was sorry. Instead, she looked away from the one object that proved Grandpa had loved me enough to prepare. Then Elena played the tape. Grandpa's voice filled the courtroom. Not loud, not dramatic, just true. A family can love you and still try to use you. Learn the difference. My father closed his eyes. Marissa started crying, but this time nobody moved to comfort her. The judge listened without expression until the tape ended. Then she asked one question. Mrs. Harlan, did your daughter receive emergency medical treatment on April 12th? My mother sat very straight. Her attorney leaned toward her, whispering. She ignored him. No, she said. The room seemed to inhale. The judge asked, did you represent to your son that she had? My mother's lips pressed together. Yes. Why? For the first time in my life, my mother had to answer a question without controlling the room. She looked at me, and what I saw in her eyes was not regret. It was resentment that I had made the truth inconvenient. Because my father was going to make a mistake, she said. He was old. He was sentimental. Caleb had no family, no children, no understanding of what Marissa needed. The judge's voice stayed calm. So you decided to redirect the trust. I decided to protect my daughter. I felt those words land exactly where they were meant to. My daughter, not my children, my daughter. Elena asked, and your son? My mother did not answer. She did not have to. The judge turned to my father. Mr. Harlan, were you present at Mr. Voss's office that night? My father's shoulders lowered. Yes. Was Caleb Harlan present? He looked at Marissa, then at my mother, then at me. No. Marissa made a small sound. My father kept going. Maybe because truth, once opened, sometimes spills faster than fear can catch it. Marianne said Caleb would ruin everything. She said Dad was trying to punish Marissa. She said we could fix the paperwork later. The judge looked at the forged declination. Who signed Caleb Harlan's name? Nobody spoke. Then a voice came from the back, small but clear. I know. Everyone turned. Maddie stood in the doorway with Patricia Keene, the retired nurse. My heart dropped. Marissa stood so fast her chair scraped the floor. Maddie, what are you doing here? Maddie's eyes filled, but she did not run. Grandma told me not to say it, she said, but Mommy said remembering wrong is lying, and I don't want to lie. The judge softened her voice. Young lady, come forward only if the adult with you says it is okay. Patricia stepped beside her. Her guardian ad litem is in the hall, Your Honor. The child asked to speak after hearing her mother tell her not to repeat what she found. A few minutes later, after careful procedure, Maddie was allowed to say only what she had personally seen recently. She said she had found an old folder in Grandma's attic while they were packing the shop papers. Inside was a practice sheet, barrage of my name. Caleb Harlan. Caleb Harlan. One version circled. Beside it, in Marissa's handwriting, were the words. Closest one. My sister sat down slowly. That was the moment her performance finally had nowhere to stand. The folder was retrieved from Patricia's car. Maddie had taken pictures of it on her tablet before giving it to the nurse. Because, as she said quietly, I thought grown-ups would make it disappear. No child should have to think like that. But children in dishonest families become archivists early. The judge did not decide everything that day. Courts do not work like movies. There was no gavel slam that fixed 9 years of damage in 10 seconds, but she did 3 important things. She halted the sale of Mercer Machine and Tool immediately. She suspended Marissa's authority over Mercer Holdings pending investigation. And she recognized enough evidence of fraud to refer the matter to the county prosecutor and appoint a temporary independent trustee. 2 weeks later, after handwriting analysis, bank review, and testimony from the retired notary's former assistant, the forged declination was formally invalidated. 3 months later, the trust was restored. I was appointed successor trustee, just as Grandpa had written. Marissa did not go to prison. People may want that kind of ending, but real life is often messier. She accepted a plea related to forged documents and financial misrepresentation. She paid restitution from the portion of sale proceeds she had already borrowed against. She lost control of any trust-related accounts. My parents were removed from every role connected to the trust. My father's insurance license was reviewed because of the fraud filings. My mother stopped teaching piano lessons after the church board learned why the court had subpoenaed her records. Noah Bell was confirmed as a trust beneficiary. Not because he belonged to my family by possession, because Grandpa had seen a frightened mother and decided her child deserved protection from people who treated children like strategy. Kara's sister cried when Elena explained it to her. She said, Kara always said an old man gave her enough money to keep her baby. I never knew his name. I did. His name was Elias Mercer. He noticed signals. Maddie began visiting me every other Saturday with a counselor's approval. Not because I was trying to take her from Marissa, but because the court believed she needed safe adults who did not punish truth. The first time she came to my house, she saw the red lantern on my kitchen shelf. Does it still work? She asked. I don't know. Can we make it? So we cleaned the glass. We replaced the wick. We filled the small chamber carefully. At sunset, I lit it on the porch. The red glow spread softly across the steps. Maddie sat beside it, knees tucked under her chin. Was your birthday really ruined? She asked. I thought about lying in the gentle way adults lie to protect children from sadness. Then I remembered what lies had cost us. Yes, I said. It was. She looked worried. Because of my mom, because of choices grown-ups made. Can birthdays be fixed later? I looked at the lantern. 9 years earlier, I had sat alone in a restaurant parking lot thinking my family had thrown away my cake, my gift, and whatever Grandpa wanted me to know. But some gifts do not expire. Some love waits in metal and glass. Some truth sits in a bank box until the right hand turns the key. Yes, I said, sometimes they can. On my 35th birthday, I reopened Mercer Machine and Tool, not as the old repair shop exactly. The world had changed. Machines had changed. But the bones were still good. We turned it into a training space for young people aging out of foster care, veterans who needed steady hands again, and kids who liked tools more than classrooms. Above the front door, I mounted Grandpa's red lantern. Under it, a small brass plaque read, Signals Matter. Maddie painted that plaque herself. Noah came to the opening with his aunt. He was shy, but he asked smart questions about the drill press. I showed him how to measure twice before cutting once. Grandpa would have liked him. My parents did not come. Marissa sent a text. I stared at it for a long time before opening it. It said, "I didn't think it would go this far." That was not an apology, but it was the closest thing to truth she had ever sent me. I did not reply. Some doors do not need to slam. They simply remain closed. That evening, after everyone left, I stood alone in the shop with the lights off and the red lantern glowing above the door. For the first time in 9 years, my 25th birthday did not feel like an open wound. It felt like a signal I had finally understood. My parents canceled my birthday for my sister's fake emergency. They thought that would be the end of the story. They thought a quiet son would swallow the insult, lose the evidence, and stay grateful for crumbs of family. But they forgot what Grandpa taught me. A signal ignored does not disappear. It waits. And when the truth finally shines, even a red lantern can stop $1 million lie.